Lowe's early Black Friday deals are going fast. Don't miss up to 50% off select major appliances. Plus, up to an extra 25% off when you bundle select major appliances. And with Christmas around the corner, you're going to need more string lights, right? Save $4 on GE LED 100-count string lights, now just $5.98. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 12/3. Selection varies by location. Select locations only. While supplies last. See Lowe's.com for more details.
Tyler Shaw, sports director. Tyler, how's it going, buddy?
Director Shaw, I'm doing...
Director Shaw. What's going on, everyone? This is the Aggie Game Day Extra podcast. I'm Travis Brownson, your Texas A&M sports writer here at KBTX. Due to some technical difficulties, we don't necessarily have Max Crawford here. But we in his chair, we have Tyler Shaw, sports director. We'll get to see his bright and shining face. Get to a close up of that glorious beard,
right?
In Max's seat today.
That's what we. That's why we did this. You know, so
it is.
Get that close. So I feel honored to be sitting in Max's chair. So
it's kind of farty. I don't know if
it's a little warm here.
It smells a little over there. I don't know.
A little different on this side. We'll say the table.
Well, let's go ahead and get just right into it because there isn't maybe necessarily a whole lot to talk about this game this week.
Not a whole lot.
Not too. There's 1-10 Samford. We'll get to that.
Can I say? But before we get into that, as good of a time it is right now to be an Aggie fan, as much of a high they're on, it is brutal to be a Dallas sports fan. I'm sorry. I just kind of had to get that out. A couple days ago, and we were watching this together. The end of that Stars game. That was brutal.
Yeah, it really was. It really was. And I mean, you're more of a Mavs fan than I am, and there's all kinds of fun stuff going on there.
So, and that's why I brought that up because there's that Stars game where they were down 2 goals.
Yeah.
In the last minute or so.
Yeah.
Had a chance to tie it, send it to overtime. They call and the shot was good.
Yeah.
It goes in with 0.1 seconds left on the clock.
Called the goalie interference.
The goalie.
Yeah. I think he got pushed in. I think he got pushed in the goalie. That's just my take on it.
So last night, the Mavericks are struggling. Last night, they're playing the Knicks, which at one point would have been a good matchup. But this is also Cooper Flagg's first time missing a game. So not only do you have the normal injuries of Anthony Davis and everyone, now your star rookie is out with an illness. So there's nobody playing. But they actually played pretty well last night. We're in the game, had ups and downs, but they were in a good flow. Last minute of the game, New York takes the lead. Then they're up 6 seconds left. So at this point, you need some help. You need New York to miss their free throws, and they did. So the Knicks missed their free throws. Now it's a 2-point game with 2 seconds left. And no timeouts. The Mavs get the ball up the floor, and Brandon Williams makes the layup with time at the buzzer. It's good. That would have sent it to overtime, but they called off for an offensive foul. The replay he hooked in with his left arm, which you can't do as an offensive player. But when they kind of showed the replay and slowed it down, he got bumped a little before he hooked the arm. So New York kind of got away with the no foul call there. They waved the basket off. So it was almost like deja vu of the Stars game of you have the game tying shot to send it to overtime, and it's good. But you get
well, officiating getting in the way.
Yeah, officiating getting in the way.
And we're not even talking about the Cowboys. That's just a whole nother. Yeah, that's a whole nother story.
That's a given.
Yeah. So if you're in Dallas, former Dallas located Aggie fan, you at least got one team that's right. That's rolling here. Let's kind of get into some of those headlines of what's going on with those Aggies this week because there is quite a few of them. So let's start off with the fact that Bryce Anderson, Mike Elko said, is going to take a red shirt this year. Yeah. He's only played in 4 games. He got hurt, of course, in that Notre Dame game, which was the 3rd of the season. Of course, got carted off the field, head injury. He was able to work back and get in. And I think he got about 14 snaps in the Florida game, but since then hasn't played. That's 4 games. You can play in the max games you can play in a season to get a red shirt is 4 games. So he will not play in the last 2. The postseason doesn't count towards that redshirt total. So if and when they make it to the playoff, he is eligible to play in those games. But there's kind of really no reason why he should play in these last two, especially with Dalton Brooks and Marcus Ratcliffe playing so well at safety right now. So we won't see Bryce Anderson until the postseason.
Yeah, it's kind of an interesting rule that you can still play because there's potentially. I mean, if you host a first round game, which I guess if they go to the SEC championship game, they wouldn't. But you have a SEC title game potentially, a quarterfinal, semifinal. I mean, there's 4 postseason games you could play. So he could double the amount of games he's played this season and technically play 8 games, but still keep his red shirt because 4 of those were on the postseason if that were to happen. But yeah, I mean, that's obviously I think it's a smart move. He's a senior, but he can come back for another year. And I think for his sake, that's probably the smart thing. Especially you hate to see injuries that happen that early in the season and kind of derail your last year. So if he wants to, coming back for another year, I think that'd be good for him.
The next thing, Mike Elko, we knew from announcements and everything last week, is inked a new deal with the Aggies. Trev Albert's also in line to get a new one. The Board of Regents are going to vote to approve both of those tomorrow. We're recording this on Thursday, so maybe you're listening to this has already happened. Let's hear real quick. Let's start with Elko, and let's hear real quick what Mike Elko had to say about. Well, he talked a little bit about the contract, but then was also kind of asked how much did Penn State, maybe reports of some other programs having interest in him. How much did that play into getting this new deal? Was it something they leveraged? He talked a little bit about that in this Monday press conference.
I've said this before. It's how we run our program. I want to value people because I believe they do a good job and I believe in what they're doing. That was the message to our administration was like, I don't want to have to come to you and say this school, like I don't do that. Like that's not who I am. That's not how I want to be. If you believe in this program and you believe in what we're doing, this is what we believe that belief should look like. And I think everybody just kind of agreed. I don't think there was much back and forth. And once we knew the university and the athletic department was willing to commit to the program the way they were, we were never going anywhere.
This concept of extending, offering new contracts to head coaches because of the way that the market is shaping up around them, it's maybe one of the most challenging things that an athletic director or a university has to face. I mean, you even go back to Jimbo's extension, upping his contract because it looked like the LSU job might be open. Scott Woodward was over there, all that, and that turned out to be a very bad decision. This feels different, though.
Right. That one definitely, even in the moment, it seemed like it was premature to offer the extension because at that point, it was, okay, well, what has he done? I think in 2 years, Elko already has proven, well, he's done a lot to turn this program around. They are still undefeated this year and have a chance to do a lot this season. It's definitely a guy you need to lock up. And yeah, with the way the market is, with how many open jobs and kind of the Penn State interest, it's just something that needed to be done. They needed to lock that up, and in a very different way than Jimbo. Jimbo, it almost seemed like they were anticipating him to be good because of that. That 2020 season, they saw some success, but beyond that, there was no evidence really that. He was going to bring them to the level that he had that Florida State team some years back with James Winston and won the national championship. So, and I don't think this contract is going to be as big of a buyout. That one was an historic numbers when you look at the buyout. So I think that's a big difference as well with this.
Yeah, exactly.
And very incentive based, which I think you need to have, especially with a coach like Elko that's kind of newer to the scene. He'll get his money if they keep things rolling.
And the important parts of the new contract, especially for Elko, what he said is the fact that there is a bigger salary pool for his assistants and his support staff, and there is that incentive-based bonuses structure for his assistants that he gets for making the college football playoff, winning an SEC title, things like that. We haven't gotten to see the nitty-gritty of it yet, but he mentioned that incentive base. He kind of had a quote saying, why am I the only one getting bonuses? There's so many other people working around that. Everyone should deserve to get bonuses if they achieve those lofty goals. So going back to the headlines, one of the interesting storylines of this season has been A&M's kicking situation. Randy Bond has been the starter for majority of the season and has been for the last 3 or really 4 years for the Aggies. They do bring in Jared Zirkle a couple years ago. He started the first 2 games of the season as the starting place kicker. Got the position taken over by Randy Bond, but Bond just hasn't necessarily been that good this year, and he gets a vote of confidence from Mike Elko. Let's hear what Mike Elko had to say about Randy Bond and the kicking situation so far this year.
Jared's back to full health. Randy's still our guy. We still have confidence in Randy. Obviously, 2 big misses on Saturday, and those are things that we've got to try to get fixed. He had gone through a 3 or 4 week spell where we had not missed a kick, and so felt like we had gotten into a better rhythm from where we were in the beginning of the year. And then those misses kind of came out of nowhere a little bit in the recent form, and so we'll continue to evaluate it and try to get back into a position and kind of see where it's at. But right now, Randy's our guy moving forward.
So I don't know what's kind of your. I'm pulling up some of Bond's numbers right here, but your just kind of initial thoughts on how kicking has gone this year.
Well, it hasn't been great, and now Elko is kind of he's the voice of reason, and he said also in that presser in another moment that his job is to be kind of opposite the moment. Mm-hmm. And that as a head coach, you need to be the even-keeled guy in the room. You can't be too reactionary. You need to stick to game plans, see things out. I take Marcel Reed, for example. As good as he's been this year, there were fans calling for him to be benched in that first half because that was probably the worst half of football I've ever seen Marcel Reed play. Elko did not. He stuck with his guy. He knew that was the guy. Now, a kicker's a little different. You have one job, and that's to make kicks. And if you're not making your kicks, your job is that simple. There were a million things that went wrong, and it kind of all snowballed in this game. So, receivers were dropping passes, but missed kicks was a big part of this. Randy Bond missed a couple big ones that didn't help. They ended up completing the comeback anyways, but it would have been a little bit easier with some help from your kicker. But yeah, Elko's going to roll with him. I don't know how much kicking he'll have other than extra points on Saturday, so it'll be hard to see kind of if he's got his mojo back. But yeah, I'll be interested to see, especially with how many games they're potentially have left this season, if he ends up sticking with them.
Yeah, let's look at some of his stats. He's 11 for 18 so far this season with multiple misses against Auburn and South Carolina. 0 for 3 on kicks of 50 or more yards, 5 for 8 from 40 to 49. Saturday was his first career miss of under 30 yards. On his career, or leading up to this season, Bond was 16 for 19 on 30 to 39 yards. So he's been okay. He's never really been elite. And a lot of times, when you look at some of these championship runs that teams make, you got to make a clutch kick when it matters. Now, about as clutch of a kick as there's been this season, he had to hit that extra point against Notre Dame to win it. And that is an extra point. It should be pretty much automatic. Jared Zirkle, for that matter, missed an extra point against Utah State earlier in the season too.
And maybe that's why he has his vote of confidence in Bond, because maybe he doesn't have any more confidence in Jared Zirkle at this point. And that that's an issue of its own. But with the struggles, maybe Elko maybe he's not confident in what's behind him, and so he sticks through it. He gives his confidence in him, and he's hoping that Bond either comes out of a slump or that they don't need as many clutch kicks down the stretch. But it'll be interesting to see how much if we see Zirkle.
Yeah, Zirkle has been in there doing kickoffs since he came back from a little bit of an injury.
And they've used him for long or like field goals too. because of his leg.
So, yeah, we'll just have to keep an eye on that because that could be a really big storyline coming down the stretch if this A&M team makes a little bit of a postseason run. Men's basketball has not necessarily looked great over the last stretch. They did break a 2-game losing streak with a win over Montana, but they barely beat a Montana team that should be at a much lower skill level than this Aggie team. Still a lot of half-court defense problems.
Yeah, and honestly, I don't know if it's something that can really be solved overnight. This might be something that just kind of is an identity, at least for this year's team. We're going to kind of see those issues throughout the season. And Bucky's admitted it, with this new team and learning this new style and the way they play, there's going to be a lot of ups and downs. I know it's still early, but now I'm kind of wondering if there's not going to be as many ups as, we maybe once anticipated this team to have. Definitely growing pains. As it stands right now, I don't know how this is going to stack up in the SEC. They're going to have to do a lot of growing, I guess, especially on the defensive end of the floor. But this is the way they're built. I mean, it is a team that if they catch fire and get hot, they could beat a lot of teams. It's just a matter of, is that going to be enough, and is that going to be consistent? We just haven't seen it yet.
KenPom has this being now only a 6-win SEC conference slate, which isn't at all enough to get you into the NCAA tournament. So they'll definitely need to show a little bit more consistency in that half-court defense and a little bit more consistency in frankly shooting, which is supposed to be their strong suit this year. So we'll keep an eye on them as that keeps going. Women's basketball, you were out at a few of those games. They started 3-0. I think maybe at least hype levels, these teams are kind of on a little bit of a opposite trajectory than what we thought early in the season.
Right. I mean, you just look at last year. Men's basketball had all the hype, and they could have, were close to being a Sweet 16 team. They made it 2 rounds deep. The women struggled. I mean, just a couple of conference wins all year. It was pretty bad. But that, Joni gets, some transfers in, some recruits. They've got a full bench now. And they look impressive. They looked a little shaky in the first couple of games, but their first real big test at Kansas State, and they go out and win that game. They get a big lead at halftime. Kansas State kind of makes it close, but A&M pulls it out. They've got some players on that team, and they do play defense. And I think that'll be kind of a difference maker. I don't know how this will translate in the are they ready to actually compete in the SEC? But it sure looks like they're headed in that direction.
Yeah, I think good strategy. I covered Jeff Mittie a long time ago, the Kansas State coach. He loves his 2-3 zone. They mentioned knowing that Kansas State is going to want to make them just shoot from wherever and take whatever open shot they get. And they were able to have a little bit of patience and get those maybe a little bit higher percentage or shots that they wanted to take, not take what Kansas State was giving them. So good little start for the Aggie women's basketball team. And then, of course, volleyball heading into the first SEC tournament in a very long time as the number 2 seed. The biggest point of conversation around that is the fact that A&M gets a couple round buys being the number 2 seed, but then they have to win 3 straight games in 3 days if they want to come out of that tournament with a championship or even a runner-up position. And that's just not something they've done this year, is have to do 3 games in 3 days. He's already kind of starting the petition to, in future tournaments, to get that rest day in there at some point. But they've been working over the last few weeks, they've said, to kind of pick up the training a little bit so that the stamina, the conditioning, the wear and tear, the systems, and even scouting are ready to go into 3 games in 3 straight days.
It'll be interesting, too, to see how the committee weighs the importance of this SEC tournament, because right now A&M is kind of teetering on that 1 seed line. We're talking about NCAA tournament. Could be them, could be SMU, who beat A&M head-to-head. But yeah, this is a team that they continue to impress. I mean, I could see them making a run to the Final Four. Again, Kentucky's going to be hard to beat. They're the only SEC team that had A&M's number this Nebraska's going to be tough to beat. But if they are a 1 seed, I mean, obviously a great path to get to the Final Four. It's impressive what they do.
I think the most important thing about the tournament is, and he kind of mentioned this, like, yes, they're going to the tournament. They want to bring home hardware that is important to them, but also you win a couple games, you're probably hosting. For all the baseball fans out there watching this, you're hosting the regional and the super regional. Yeah. You're getting the first and second round and the third and fourth round in Reed Arena, and I mean, it's well documented what kind of home court advantage that has created for A&M. So I think that's probably, he didn't say this out loud, but that's probably the biggest focus of all this, is locking up that home court advantage for the first 2 rounds,
right?
First 4 rounds, I guess.
If you don't win the whole SEC tournament, I don't think it's sure it's disappointing. You always want to win, but yeah, it's especially, you said it, the three matches in 3 days, the taxing on the body. You want to be rested and ready to go and healthy and everything, full strength, full speed for the NCAA.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Over 40 years ago, my parents started C&J Barbecue, and today we continue to honor Dad's legacy with the best barbecue in the Brazos Valley. With locations on Harvey Road, Southwest Parkway, and our newest location on William J. Bryan, we carry on our family tradition of serving up award-winning barbecue, sides, and desserts. We also offer delivery, catering, as well as custom menus and private chef services. Come visit us today for some of the best barbecue around. C&J Barbecue. The C is for Chip, the J is for Joe, and the barbecue is for you.
Well, this is normally where we get into the matchup for A&M football moving forward.
Samford?
I just really we'll throw this up there. This is the matchup. It's the home finale. Number 3 Texas A&M 10-0 taking on Samford 1-10. FCS Samford 1-10. Like we said, they have a new they fired their head coach. They have an interim head coach. Not a whole lot going great for the Bulldogs right now. That's this Saturday at 11 a.m. at Kyle Field. You can watch it on SEC Network Plus. Right before it, you can watch Aggie Game Day, the last one of the regular season for us. So be sure to tune into that. Shameless plug. But we're actually going to go into a bit of a conversation here. And I think it's about that time, pulling back the curtain on our jobs a little bit. We have to start planning for all the scenarios, where the travel, making sure the staffing, whatever. So we've kind of been having this conversation from a business standpoint for the last couple of weeks, but I think it's a good time to have this conversation with everybody about what does the postseason situation look like? What are the scenarios ahead for A&M to get into various pieces and parts of the postseason? And so we're going to kind of break that down, starting with SEC title game, SEC championship, how that all is still left to be framed out, and then a little bit of conversation about what that means for the college football playoff and not for A&M. So let's start with the SEC teams that are still kind of in contention for this thing. There's 4 of them for the SEC championship. There's A&M, who's sitting at 7-0 in conference play. Georgia's locked up a spot in the title game for all intents and purposes. They are going to be one of the teams in that title game. It's either A&M, Alabama at 6-1, or Ole Miss at 6-1 that have a shot to take that other spot. Georgia's done with conference play. We'll get into those schedules a little bit left. They already have their 8 games done. That's why they're basically locked in to one of those positions. So when you start looking at the schedules moving forward, A&M has Samford this week, and then number 17 Texas on Black Friday. Georgia's done with conference play. They have Charlotte, and then of course the in-state battle with number 16 Georgia Tech to close out the season. Alabama has Eastern Illinois this week, and then Auburn to close things out in the Iron Bowl night game. Yes, Ole Miss is open, and then the Egg Bowl against Mississippi State to close things out, to close out their season. So all across the board here, all rivalry games,
right?
To close out with a lot of, save for Georgia and Georgia Tech, with a lot of SEC title game situations to go. Now, Tyler, we know how the easiest way for A&M to get in the title game. That is.
Yeah, you win and you get in. They control their own destiny, just like they did last year at this time. They kind of controlled their own destiny if they won out. So, yeah, you beat Texas. You are the only undefeated SEC team. You're headed to Atlanta. And
they will play Georgia in Atlanta. It would be the first time that they get to go play, even take part in the SEC title game, let alone play for an SEC champion. It would be the first time they could win a conference championship since '98, of course, when they won that Big 12 championship in St. Louis.
That sounds right.
Yeah, I think it was St. Louis. Now we're dating ourselves a little bit as being youngsters here. So now, but the things get a little interesting if A&M loses that game to Texas. So
they'll have a chance.
They still have a chance.
Yeah.
So if A&M loses to Texas, then we start getting into there's going to be 4 teams at 7-1. The different kind of tiebreakers and such. Well, most of these teams don't necessarily have head-to-head matchups with each other that can lock it all in. A&M hasn't played any of the other 3 above. So then the next tiebreaker is the win percentage among the conference teams that they'd played this year. Well, now it's been pretty notable that most of A&M's games that they played in conference play have been against teams that are at the bottom half of the table when it comes to the SEC, the conference play. So if A&M loses to Texas and everything else is chalk, Ole Miss wins, Alabama wins, Alabama and Georgia, again, are your SEC teams playing for your SEC title, because Alabama has the opponent win percentage in the conference play would be right at 500. Georgia's opponent win percentage is 484. Ole Miss's is 343. A&M's opponent win percentage is actually only 281. Not having played really the strongest conference slate. Not anything they could have done about that before. It looked like they were going to have a strong conference slate.
Right. Yeah, going into it, I thought the strength of schedule is going to kind of hurt them. They wouldn't be in this position right now, but it's kind of turned out to be the opposite. But yeah, if you're a fan of college football, I think you don't want this to happen, because how many times have we seen Alabama, Georgia? Let's shake things up. Let's get some new blood in there. That's why we don't have the divisions anymore. So we have more of this parity. But yeah, if that goes chalk, then A&M's outside looking in.
But if A&M loses to Texas, there still is a way they get into the title game, and that is you have to have Alabama and Ole Miss both lose to Auburn and Mississippi State, and then you get into this scenario where Georgia and Texas A&M are the only 2 7-1 teams. Therefore, those are the 2 teams that are going to be in the title game. Interesting. Another one that has the top 5 implications, not necessarily title game implications, is Oklahoma's game to close out the year. If they win that against LSU, they actually jump all the way up to number 3 because of opponent win percentage. Alabama and the head-to-head over Alabama puts them up because they have the same win percentage. Then you have Alabama at 4, Texas at 5 in that scenario. If Oklahoma loses, then those kind of reshuffle a little bit if LSU somehow was to manage it. But the key thing about this is Ole Miss and Alabama lose in that scenario, then Georgia and A&M are both 7-1. They go. Now you have, I believe, order of finish dictates home and away.
Yeah.
Which, okay, I guess you get to pick your uniforms, and I don't know how much of an advantage that has, especially going to Georgia to play Georgia.
It's basically home for Georgia anyways.
Right. So I think that is the difference between beating Texas and losing to Texas, with this other scenario going in being the 1 seed or the 2 seed into that game particularly. So I don't know. I think, the opponent is set, so there's no real conversation here over who A&M wants to face. It's going to be Georgia no matter the scenario. I think, and we'll get into this a little bit more, but we can at least preliminarily start to talk about it. I still think it's worthwhile. There's a lot of conversation of if these conference championship games are worthwhile playing. I think it's still very worthwhile for A&M to get into this game and to play it.
Yeah, because if they don't, they're going to the playoffs no matter what. But we've talked about this. The difference between It could be. I think it's the difference between getting a first round bye and not. Because if they don't make the title game, then you're looking at data points of Ohio State and Indiana, who are already ranked higher than them, most likely playing in the Big Ten championship. Georgia, I think they leap Texas. If A&M loses to Texas and they're not even in the title game, they're going to be ranked lower than Georgia, and probably the other team playing. So then you're looking at least 4 teams that are ranked higher than Texas that are going to get those kind of buys to the quarterfinals. Now you're dropping down to, okay, maybe A&M's hosting a first-round playoff game, but that means they're playing an extra playoff game. And, maybe it evens out because, you're not playing in the SEC title game, but you still have the same amount of games. I think it is to the benefit to get into that game. Whether they win or not, obviously bringing home, and we talk, it's kind of volleyball. Getting hardware is a big deal, especially for an A&M team that's never been to an SEC title game, and their last conference championship was '98. I think it is a big deal. But if you're looking at the grand scheme of things, trying to win a national championship, getting to that game, I think, is the most important.
28 years since the last time.
That's a long time.
I mean, that's well before most of the kids who are on campus right now. Most of the kids on the team, maybe it would be about a year from Jared Zeno when he was born. Since
true.
then,
Zeno's almost that old.
Yeah, he's almost as old as the last conference title game. Let's look at the bracket here real quick, as projected from the most recent rankings that were released on Tuesday, because I think that'll give us a little bit more visual on what you're kind of talking about here. And as we know, the top 4 teams, ranked teams, get that bye. It's no longer like it was last year, where it's just the top 4 conference champions that get that bye. Top 4 teams. So I still think in this scenario, what we've talked about a lot of times in our rankings reaction show is that as it shapes up now, it's looking like if you win the SEC and the Big Ten championship, you're probably going to be in some combination of 1 and 2. And if you lose in the SEC title game or the Big 12 championship, you're probably going to be in that 3-4 range, unless there is just an absolute blowout and you can let maybe Texas Tech sneak in. And so winning at Texas basically should assure you that bye.
Yeah. So, you have everything to play for beyond the bragging rights of the state and the Lone Star Showdown and the Cup and everything. Yes, I think a win at Texas, you're 11-0 or 12-0 at that point. You have a first round bye. Even if you lose to Georgia, you may end up the 3 or the 4 seed, but that's really not a whole lot of difference. Granted, maybe you could make the argument being a 3 seed is a much more favorable than being 4 and having to play someone like Texas Tech. But yes, everything is easy for the Aggies. If you beat Texas, you're in the SEC title game, you get the first round bye, smooth sailing. Or as far as favorable postseason.
What would be a really interesting scenario that we haven't, I'm kind of going off course here a little bit, that we haven't talked about in the rankings reaction, as things have kind of the deck is kind of shuffled with some losses. What about a Notre Dame A&M rematch?
Yeah, a rematch.
I hadn't even really thought about that.
I hadn't either.
But that was by far the best game of the season. I mean, probably South Carolina is the most memorable, but the best game of the season was that trip up to South Bend.
Right.
That a rematch of that game would be pretty interesting.
They've played each other, Kyle Field, the visiting team winning. They've played each other in South Bend with the visiting team winning. How about a little neutral site to even the score? It's almost a little mini series. They're tied 1-1 right now. Both close games this year. Obviously, a very close game in overtime. Very memorable. That would be fun. Kind of beginning of the season to now postseason, how both those teams have progressed, and how they stack up.
Let's go back over here to and look at this real quick. When we're talking about, that is not the right graphic. Sorry. When we talk about the Bulls, that if you get that quarterfinal bye, or even if they get into the first round and are able to win that game to get to the quarterfinals, your quarterfinal bowls are rose, cotton, sugar, and orange. Now, per college football playoff rules, the higher seeded teams of those first 4 byes get the closest bowl game to in essence try to give them the best home home field advantage per se, or easiest travel for their fans. The small exception to that is the Big Ten winner is going to automatically go to the Rose because of the history there between Big Ten, Pac-12. So Ohio State sitting there at number 1, projected probably to go to the Rose. If Indiana beats Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game, then you'd think Indiana goes to the Rose. The interesting situation that is if it kind of won't probably play out like it is where Ohio State and Indiana are 1 and 2, but A&M is kind of caught in the middle of two bowls. You have technically the closest one is Cotton, but then the Sugar is just a little bit farther down there in New Orleans. If Indiana somehow stays ahead of A&M without being the number 1 team and going to the Rose Bowl, again, not a likely scenario. They're going to go to the Cotton because that's a little bit closer it's closer to Indiana than the Sugar Bowl is, even though both are farther from Indiana than A&M. A&M's likely pointed to the Sugar, but if A&M wins that title game, the SEC title game, and Ohio's, they locked into that number 2 spot, Cotton is probably the likely destination for them. Mm-hmm. If they lose the SEC title game, that's when it gets a little bit. They would lose to Georgia. In this situation, then Georgia as the number 2 seed. Let's say it doesn't really matter what team from the Big Ten goes to the number 1 spot. They're going to go to the Rose. Georgia finishes number 2 as the SEC championship. Probably goes to the Orange
Bowl, probably, yeah.
As the closest one there, and then you're sitting in a situation where A&M's sitting at 3. Then number 3 would be either Indiana or Ohio State. That would be a situation where if you want A&M to stay at 3 because then they probably get the Cotton. Otherwise, as the 4 seed, they're probably going to Sugar. So in this scenario, I don't see A&M as a 1 through 4 seed going anywhere other than the Cotton or the Sugar, as you break it down, with Georgia being the other team in that scenario. And then beyond that, if they win whatever bowl there it is, then it's the Fiesta and the Peach. It's the same scenario. The highest 2 seeded teams to come out of that get to go to the closer bowl. So then you're having to really start doing the math.
Yeah. All the projections I've seen kind of have A&M going.
Gotcha.
That's kind of the path. I guess the likely scenario with how the teams are ranked right now are likely going there to Atlanta. So it'd be a trip right back a few weeks later.
Gotcha. And then the finals are in Miami. So that's kind of the pathway to necessarily a national championship for Texas A&M. Now as we've done frequently, let's talk about it in the terms of what we want, because that's because it's all about us. I think we want the Cotton is historically and well known for being a great spot to cover a game. Mm-hmm. We covered the game last year. There is a great hospitality suite. Yeah. There is lots of good activities and fun things to do once you get done with your work. They take care of, I think, media and fans alike.
Yeah,
up there.
And A&M has a lot of history with the Cotton.
Yes.
Too. So I think that's just cool in and of itself.
Mm-hmm.
They're headed back there.
I think now I have covered Cotton, Orange, Fiesta in my career. So if A&M does manage to go to Sugar and Peach, I basically would have covered, and I've covered a game in the Rose Bowl that wasn't the Rose Bowl. Yeah. So I basically would have the Grand Slam, as it were, if that happens. So that's another a fun wrinkle to that. I mean, I think, what if you got your pick of these, what would you want?
From the quarter, I'm familiar with Cotton Bowl, and I know that I would enjoy that experience. So probably Cotton Bowl. But I wouldn't be upset. We did Sugar Bowl, and New Orleans is a fun city, and it'd be something new for both of us to kind of see a new bowl game there. Now you said you've been to Fiesta, but not Peach, right?
Correct.
Yeah.
And A&M has a little bit of a history there when it was kind of not the Peach Bowl, but the Chick-fil-A Bowl. They're
Right.
in its a little bit of a hiatus outside the BCS ecosystem.
Well, the last time it was the Peach Bowl was that Johnny Manziel versus Duke.
That was the
last time-
Chick-fil-A Bowl. Yeah.
Yeah, the A&M was played in this bowl game, which I guess at that time was the Georgia Dome.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, I mean that's a fun memory there of a.
And the year before was the last time they played in the Cotton Bowl, because the Cotton was kind of in a BCS hiatus.
Mhm.
It was not a BCS bowl there for a little bit. It got re-elevated with the playoff, when the advent of the playoffs. So, and then A&M has history in Miami with that Orange Bowl win in 2020, and has been there to play the University of Miami recently as well. So a lot of some familiarity. The Fiesta going out there to Arizona is a pretty cool spot to be around that semifinal time as well. So, I think some good options here. Some good pathways. What feels like we're just going to go ahead and throw out there, and we can see how we do here. What feels like the most logical path, most likely path, and season end for the Aggies?
Right now, as it stands, to me, it feels like they make it to Atlanta. Again, we'll talk about this more next week, that Texas matchup. A&M's the better team. I'll say that right now. A&M is the better team. It's in Austin. I think it's kind of a coin flip game, just with the rivalry and everything. But I think they make it to Atlanta. Whether they win that game, and we'll get into that, more later too. I don't know if they win that game. That would be by far the biggest test they've had all season. Because, like we said, they hadn't played the top SEC team.
Mm-hmm.
They haven't played Georgia or Alabama or Ole Miss. So, and Georgia seems to be hitting its stride, really, at this time of year. They didn't look as good at the beginning of the year. Gunnar Stockton, and they seem like they are rolling right now. So I don't know if A&M beats Georgia, but again, I don't think it matters. You get a 3 or 4 seed if you lose that game. Probably going to the Cotton Bowl, I would assume, in that scenario. So, and then I think they have a good chance of winning their quarterfinal. Again, we have no idea what that matchup's going to be yet, but look at some of the scenarios, and I think, you look at the teams 7 through 12 right now, I think they're favored against most of them at this point. So yeah, I think a run to the semifinal right now is a very real possibility. I mean, obviously anything's a possibility. They have a chance to run the table, but if we're talking most likely, I think getting to the semifinal is pretty likely.
I think getting to the semifinal, you're right, probably is the best bet. I think I see them going out and beating. There's a lot of weird stuff swirling with Texas. They between the coaching stuff, who knows if Anthony Hill's going to be back? He injured his hand. I think we'll get a lot more into that and have a better picture of that next week. But I think they win that game. I think they go to the championship. I don't know if they beat Georgia, just because Georgia has so much experience in that game. It's in Atlanta. I think Georgia would probably be the favorite in that game. Again, that doesn't matter. I think then you get into a weird scenario where if A&M is the 3 seed, there could be, I guess, a scenario. I doubt Georgia gets sent anywhere other than the Orange if they're ranked higher than A&M. But the Sugar Bowl has always been the SEC tie-in.
Yeah.
So if for some reason Georgia gets sent to the Sugar Bowl, and as the 4 seed, A&M gets sent to the Orange Bowl, and then as a 4 seed has to play like Texas Tech in the Orange Bowl, that would be really weird.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I mean, Tech has to. That would be a weird scenario too, because you have both fan bases having to get out to Miami. I don't know. That feels a little bit more daunting, where maybe A&M loses it out in the quarter. I do think where they go in the bowl game matters.
Yeah.
A little bit in this, and where their seat is. I don't know. That would be an interesting one. You're right, but I think a run to the semifinals is kind of where my gut's feeling right now. I think I don't think that, I'm not trying to say that I don't think they aren't talented enough amongst the field right now to make a run at a title. I don't know, other than that Notre Dame game, how thoroughly tested they are. I like a win against LSU in that kind of hostile environment. I like a win over Notre Dame. I don't know beyond that if they've had the kind of test that this playoff is going to be, especially for the first time in it, Elko's first time in it. I just don't know.
I will say this. They've proven that they play 4 quarters of football and that they can finish games.
Yes.
You know? And they've proven that they can win in multiple ways and that they find ways to win. But yes, to your point, they haven't, outside of Notre Dame, haven't been. Now, you could say Indiana hasn't been tested that much outside of Oregon. So yeah, there hasn't been that test. And because they haven't lost a game, now, granted, they're in great position because they're defeated, but we haven't really seen a bounce back after a loss. How do they respond? And now you're at the point of the season where once you get to play, if you can't win, then you're out. Yeah, if you get behind like they do at South Carolina to Ohio State, I don't think you're coming back from that. You're going to start playing competition in the playoffs that they can't afford some of these mistakes that we've seen, kind of the inconsistent play all season. But again, if they put their best football out there and their defense and offense both play like they're capable of, and let's say play like they did in the second half against South Carolina, yeah, anyway. And they do it consistently, against competition. We haven't seen that outside of Notre Dame.
I think, and this is kind of going back on everything. I think if they do manage to beat Texas, go to Atlanta, and win in Atlanta, I probably feel different about the team too. Not only because of a seeding situation, but also because I think that's going out to Austin to beat a rival, going to Georgia to beat a pretty good Georgia team in Atlanta. I don't know if there is any more challenging tasks ahead of them than those 2 games. I'm not saying that going to play Ohio State in a national championship wouldn't be challenging. It would be very challenging, but they would have had something pretty similar to that already in the tank. And I don't know. I think that SEC title game is going to be a good indicator of how things go moving forward.
And maybe that's another reason why
I know. That was the Ashton Bethel Roman diving catch we have rolling here for those on the podcast.
Yeah. Maybe that is another reason, outside of the ramifications of the SEC title game, why it's a good thing that we qualify and make it. Because you're going to have that test in Georgia before the real thing of the playoff. I think that's a good thing.
Yeah.
Whether they win or lose, how do they stack up? How do they overcome adversity in an environment like that? You're not just playing South Carolina at 11 a.m. This is, you are in an SEC championship game with a trophy on the line, playing very good Georgia team. How do you respond in game to those situations? And that will help this team grow. And maybe, if you end up doing that,
Well, that's about all of the time that we have this week. Again, I know we were talking through some technical difficulties, so there's no around the SEC this week. We were going to talk about. You need to watch the 10-day forecast on KBTX because Max and his weather cohorts have found this.
Talking twerking
turkey, a tail feathered shaken turkey. That graphic that they have on there, and I always wanted to go deep into the origin stories of this twerking turkey that has caught my attention, but we'll just have to save that maybe for next week. Because Max is not with us today, so we'll skip that this week. Be sure to watch this guy on the 5, 6, and 10 leading up to the game this week. We'll have all kinds of good stuff on KBTX.com. And then Aggie Game Day this weekend before the Samford game. We'll get you all prepared for that game live out there from Aggie Park and from inside Kyle Field. So be sure to tune into that at 10 o'clock on the CW and on the live stream. So for the indisposed Max Crawford, Tyler Shaw, I am Travis Brown. This is the Aggie Game Day Extra Podcast. We'll see you next week.
AI agents are everywhere, automating tasks and making decisions at machine speed. But agents make mistakes. Just one rogue agent can do big damage before you even notice. Rubrik Agent Cloud is the only platform that helps you monitor agents, set guardrails, and rewind mistakes, so you can unleash agents, not risk. Accelerate your AI transformation at Rubrik.com. That's RUBRIK.com.
Lowe's early Black Friday deals are going fast. Don't miss up to 50% off select major appliances. Plus, up to an extra 25% off when you bundle select major appliances. And with Christmas around the corner, you're gonna need more string lights, right? Save $4 on GE LED 100 count string lights, now just $5.98. Lowe's, we help, you save. Valid through 12/3. Selection varies by location. Select locations only while supplies last. See Lowe's.com for more details.